What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am Dial here with another movie review. We are once again getting back into the Bad Boys franchise. I've already talked about the previous three Bad Boys films, the original, Bad Boys 2, and Bad Boys for Life. If you haven't seen my reviews for those, check out my channel. It is on a playlist called Bad Boys. But we are now getting into the fourth installment of the Bad Boys franchise, Ride or Die. And I guess I should address this now because this has been a topic of discussion ever since the movie came out. Should they have called the fourth film For Life? Sure, they could do that, and they could do like the cheesy number four in the titles, but me personally, I didn't really care. Because I personally don't really like when they put numbers in titles. I think that's really hokey and kind of stupid. So I'm really indifferent that the fourth film's called Ride or Die and the third film's called For Life. Part of me is actually kind of glad so they wouldn't do that gimmicky crap. But anyway, that's all I got to say about that. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into Bad Boys Ride or Die. So, I am a fan of the Bad Boys franchise. I think they're very entertaining buddy cop action movies. The first two, directed by Michael Bay, they were entertaining. I liked them. Definitely turn your brain off action films, as most Michael Bay films are. And of course, those two movies were held together by Will Smith and Martin Lawrence performance and chemistry together. They definitely are the best parts of those movies. And when the third film was coming out, Bad Boys for Life, a lot of people weren't expecting much from it because they were waiting like almost 16, 17 years to make a sequel. A lot of people were wondering, would they still have the same magic after all these years? And especially because they've gotten much older. But surprisingly enough, the third film was just as good, if not better, than the first two movies. It's my personal favorite of the three, and I know that's kind of a hot take because a lot of people really like the sensibilities that Michael Bay gave to the first two movies, especially with the action scenes. But with the third film, what I appreciated is that they actually tried a little bit harder to tell a story and have good character development while also having the big, crazy action sequences. So, yeah, For Life, really, really had a good time with that. So, I was expecting them to make a fourth film, especially because at the end of the third movie, they were leaving it open for them to make another film. So I was like, okay, sure, I'm definitely up for it. Looks like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence didn't miss a beat. So I'm up for seeing what they will do next in this franchise. Now, before we go any further, I would have to address the huge elephant in the room, and that is the controversy with Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. A lot of people have talked about this to death. I decided not to speak about it just because I don't really like getting into drama with actors and people in general. But what I will say real quickly about it is that very unfortunate circumstance. I wish Will Smith didn't do that. Nobody looked good in that whole situation, and because of that, Will Smith has dealt with a lot of consequences as far as their big movie projects that he was in. They kicked him out of a lot of projects. He was supposed to actually do a sequel to the live action Aladdin film, but they're not doing it anymore. And I think there's a couple of other projects that he was in. I'm not sure of that he wasn't in anymore. And of course, he had to pay quite a bit of fines, and also he was banned from the Oscars for a number of years. So, in my opinion, he's definitely suffered some consequences and paid his dues. But for a lot of people, ever since that situation, there's quite a few people that said that they're done with Will Smith and they don't want to see him in any more films anymore, which understandably so. I'm not here to tell you how you should personally feel about the situation because it's very, it wasn't a good look at all on any front. So I understand if people don't want to watch him anymore. Me personally, I'm good with separating the art from the artist. Like I try to leave whatever baggage and BS that the actor has in real life, and I just leave that at the door and just watch them and how good their performances are in the film. And I definitely acknowledge that not everyone can do that, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, most of the time, I'm able to, not think about what the actor's doing in real life. So, and actually take the movie for what it is and take their performance for what it is, you know. So I wasn't done with him just yet. Now, if he does get into a situation like that again, it might be another story, but we'll see. But yeah, the big question is, were people willing to see another Bad Boys film after that slap at the Oscars? You know, especially because Bad Boys is one of the bigger franchises out there. Like, will this ruin the box office for a lot of for the franchise? And especially because as of late, there's been a whole crisis in Hollywood as far as, do we know if movies today will actually be able to make the money that they used to before the pandemic. There's been quite a few movies that came out recently where, you know, some of them did really well and then some of them did not, and some of the films that weren't successful were part of, you know, blockbusters like the recent Furiosa that came out. Did not do very well at the box office, even though it was a really good film. And I did review that on the channel if you guys want to check that out. But it was a really good film, but did not do well at the box office. Now, that probably won't be an apt comparison to the Bad Boys movies because, you know, Bad Boys I think is a more popular franchise than the Mad Max films. The Mad Max films could be considered as a cult franchise, and also because they waited so long to make this Furiosa spinoff. So, you know, a bunch of other factors could have played into that, but, you know, Hollywood's is in a state of flux right now as far as how well they'll do financially. You know, when stuff like, you know, A Quiet Place is about to come out, Inside Out 2 is coming out, and Deadpool and Wolverine, how well will those movies do? That would be the real litmus test. But definitely had some concerns going in. But with the movie itself, it looked like it was going to be a fun time. Definitely was going to see this. Thank God I was able to see it opening weekend because I was on vacation actually, so I didn't think I was actually going to get a review out as soon as I would have hoped. But thank God I actually had some time to go see it while I was on vacation. So overall, I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was such a good time. I had a lot of fun with it, especially for those of you who were fans of Bad Boys for Life. It's a lot more of what you liked from the third film, you know. But what I will say is that if you are missing Michael Bay's sensibilities to the Bad Boys movies, I don't think you'll get that much here either. Um, what I will say, what I personally appreciated that I'm sure not a lot of people would, is that I do really like the direction that these new directors have been doing with the movies. Adil and Bilal, I'm really liking them as filmmakers. I really liked what they did with Bad Boys for Life. It felt very refreshing, you know. And as I said in the previous review, I felt like they are giving more of a soul and, you know, a little bit more personal, you know, connections with Mike and Marcus that didn't feel as much in the first two movies, you know. And yeah, in the third film, they were trying to homage Michael Bay's directing style while also putting in their own flair. But in Bad Boys Ride or Die, you fully feel that it's their movie now. Like, as far as like the style of the movie, the cinematography, the camera angles, I feel like Adil and Bilal, at least in my opinion, I think they're doing more creative stuff with the directing in this than what Michael Bay did. You know, as far as editing and camera tricks and just how the movie looks and just like the overall excitement that they give to the films. Like, I just think it's more interesting. You know, with Michael Bay, it almost feels like you know what you're gonna get. You know, it's like you pretty much know Michael Bay's directing style. You know what kind of camera tricks he's going to do. But with, you know, Adil Bilal, especially because they're like newer directors, they actually try to experiment with more things. And so I personally had more of a kick out of it. And once again, for the, you know, the Michael Bay fans, they probably are missing that with missing how Michael Bay directs the, you know, the action scenes and the bombastic, crazy stunts and practical explosions. And, you know, a lot of people are wanting it to reach the bar of what Bad Boys 2 did as far as the action scenes. But, you know, for me, it wasn't really that big of a deal for me. You know, I would like for them to balance the action scenes while actually having good character and story. And that's what Bad Boys Ride or Die did for me. In this film, Mike and Marcus, once again, continuing on with the development they did in the third film, Well, when Mike had a near-death experience in For Life, now Marcus goes through a near-death experience in here, and I thought that stuff was pretty. I thought it was interesting enough. You could definitely tell that Martin Lawrence was pushing more of the comedic relief in here. Like he's actually able to have a little bit more fun in this than he did in the previous three films. And I thought that stuff was funny. Martin Lawrence is absolutely hilarious. But once again, he's not as cynical as he was in the first two movies. Like he's actually, a little bit more not as mean. He's actually has a new outlook on life, which is something I like to see. Like he actually progressing with his character. Like he's not as cranky or mad as he was in the first two movies. And I also appreciate that with Mike and Marcus, that once again they're acknowledging the fact that they are older now. They're in their 50s. Like they're not able to do the stuff that they were doing like almost 30 years ago. So I like that they're playing on that more, with Marcus almost having heart attacks and Mike having panic attacks and other stuff that they're dealing with because they're older. So I like that type of stuff. So there's this whole debate going around this movie of like which one stole the film. Was it Martin Lawrence or was it Will Smith? I will say, for me personally, that they equally brought, you know, they brought their own sensibilities to the movie. Like they both contributed equal stuff in different ways. So I enjoyed them both equally. But what I will say, if you're going to these Bad Boys films looking more for the comic relief and having a little bit more silly fun stuff, I think you would lean more towards Martin Lawrence, because Martin Lawrence was a riot in this. But if you're looking for something to be focused more on the story and having more of the serious stuff and helping to ground the film, I think Will Smith definitely did that. He helped to keep the story consistent and stuff like that. So they both contribute equal stuff to the film. As far as if you want more serious stuff and you're focused on the story, Will Smith will do it. You want more of the comic relief stuff, Martin Lawrence contributed that. So but yeah, the whole conflict of the movie of Captain Howard from the previous three movies, because Captain Howard died in the third film, spoilers. And now there's this another crime syndicate that is framing him for him being part of this drug cartel conspiracy, and so they're trying to clear his name, and in the process they become fugitives of the law. Now, I would say when I saw the trailers for this and they were teasing that, I didn't really know how to feel about how they were going to approach that. Like it seemed very like cliche and hokey, and with Captain Howard recording like these messages to Mike and Marcus, like he knew he was going to die and like giving him clues and stuff like that. I don't know. It almost felt a bit Fast and Furious for me, but in the context of the movie, it actually worked a lot better than I thought it was going to. Captain Howard actually was utilized well in this film, and he's actually not like throughout the movie. That's what I was worried, that he was going to be like this hidden message thing throughout the entire film. It's going to get kind of annoying, but he actually wasn't. He was actually used. He was actually used practically. So that stuff I thought was good. Um, but yeah, as far as like the hokey stuff like that, like as far like even though I did like a Dylan Bilal's directing style, there was definitely some stuff that felt a little over the top for me. Like there was some stuff that felt like it came out of a superhero movie, like when Martin Lawrence deals with his near death experience. Like he's in a coma for a little bit, and and in his dream he goes into like this astral plane that it actually looked like it came straight out of Black Panther, and I'm like, what is going on right now? And then Martin Lawrence, after he gets out of his like coma and near death experience, like he believes that he can't die and like he's immortal, and he's talking about his previous life in his ancestry and trying to connect himself and Mike to his past experience that may or may not be real. Like that stuff I thought was kind of weird. So I don't know, but I'm sure the people in my audience, they had a kick from what Martin Lawrence was doing. And then there's this running joke of like Martin Lawrence can't have like these have junk food and candy because that's not good for his body because he's older and it'll run up his blood pressure or whatever. And there's this running joke of him wanting to get Skittles and eat candy and eat soda or whatever. But Mike's like, no, you can't have that stuff. And so I thought that stuff was pretty funny as well. And once again, going back to Mike dealing with panic attacks, because he's a tough guy and he doesn't want to admit that he's going through anxiety and stuff like that. So that's a running thing too. So I appreciate that that type of stuff is making Mike and Marcus more human. It makes them more relatable. So I definitely appreciated that. Um, I will say Reggie. You guys know Reggie from ever since he came in Bad Boys 2. Like he's a recurring character in this, and I appreciate that. I'm not even going to spoil what he does in this movie, but what I will say is Reggie is definitely the MVP of this movie. He has this really cool scene. You'll know exactly what it is when you guys watch it, but Reggie is freaking awesome. And I'm hoping if they do make more of this, is that he becomes more of a prominent character in the films. But yeah, I'm just glad to see returning characters from the previous movie playing more of a factor in this one. So that was great. One thing that took me off guard though, Teresa, Marcus's wife, is played by a completely different actress, Tasha Smith. Now I love me some Tasha Smith. I like Tasha Smith a lot, but it took me off guard because she's a completely different actress from Teresa Randall, who played Marcus's wife in the previous three movies. And so when I saw her in the movie, I was like, wait, did Marcus and Teresa get a divorce in between 3 and 4? Did he remarry? Because Tasha Smith is here. And then somebody in the film called her Teresa, and I'm like, oh, she's playing the same character. I'm like, oh, okay, that's took me off guard a little bit. But once again, this is nothing new when it comes to films. Like if they have to recast, because in the MCU, they went from Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle, who played Rhodey. So it's a similar thing with that. But I thought Tasha Smith was good. She had more scenes in here than I thought she was going to. But yeah, she was pretty good. Nothing. I mean, nothing like super memorable about it, but like she was good. You know. And then I'm glad that Alexander Ludwig and Vanessa Hudgens is back. I thought they were really good in For Life, so I'm glad that they brought them back to be like supporting roles and cadets for Mike and Marcus with the whole conflict of the movie. So they were good. And then Rita too. I thought she was good as well. She played a little bit more into the plot, which I appreciated. But yeah, she was pretty good. And then as far as the villains or the antagonists of the film, we have Lockwood played by Oyon Grufford, and what's the name, Banker played by Eric Dane. They were solid villains. I thought they were pretty good. I think they're almost as good as the villain in the previous film. They were like probably like almost like equal footing. Oyon Grufford, he was Mr. Fantastic in the first two Fantastic Four movies that came out in 2005 and 2007. And he was a solid Reed Richards. I didn't love him, but like he looked like the character, he acted like the character. Which is like probably my biggest issue was the writing in those films, but he was a solid Reed Richards. And then the only other thing I saw him in was what was it, San Andreas with The Rock that came out a few years ago, and he wasn't very memorable in that. But he was pretty solid in this film. You could just tell that he's going to become the villain and one of the villains in this film. Like it's not really spoiler for me telling you this. Like the moment you see him, you could tell something's up with him. So, but he served his purpose in the film well enough. I think Eric Dane was a little bit more memorable as the main villain in this. Like he actually had an intimidating presence, and he actually had some scary, scenes, and he actually did pretty well in the action set pieces as well. And Eric Dane, he's a really good actor, so I'm glad to see him in this. I also appreciated that Armando, Will Smith's son from the previous film. I'm glad that he's playing more of a role in this, and seeing the animosity between him and Mike, I thought was interesting, and eventually turning in. They're kind of making more of a father-son type of bond in here, but it's kind of rocky, but which is understandable because the whole situation with his mother, and that was all really crazy. I can't believe Mike actually got together with that girl. She's a crazy witch and part of the it, what part of the cartel, like that's just nuts. But that whole relationship between Armando and Mike I thought was interesting. I'm glad that they addressed that more. um yeah, and then the action scenes once again I thought were very entertaining in this film. Once again, I liked Adil and Bilal's directing style, and I like the color palettes that they're using, and a lot more creative stuff that they're doing as far as the shots. There's like this first person shooter type of camera angles that he's using. Like I saw the behind the scenes stuff with this film. They actually like strapped a camera to Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and they had like this shot of like making it seem like it would look like a video game. It's like a first person shooter type of thing. So I thought that was a really creative shot. Yeah, I just like the sensibilities in here. I really, really do. I'm hoping that Dylan Bilal is able to do another comic book movie in the near future. Like, I really want to see what they do with DC. It's very unfortunate that they had their Batgirl movie canceled, but I'm hoping James Gunn sees what their work is and actually think it's good enough for him to bring them in to the new DCU. I would really like to see that. Or maybe they're already have some work lined up for the MCU because they did Miss Marvel as well. So maybe they'll do more with Miss Marvel, or they'll do other bigger projects in the MCU, hopefully. But I just want them to get more work because like just seeing how they shoot films and how just how they have their own style. I would like to see that in the comic book film. So I hope they get more work. But overall, this was a really enjoyable film. I really had a good time with this. Is it my favorite of the Bad Boys movies? No, I still think Bad Boys for Life is a better film. I think it's a little bit more cohesive and a lot more focused than it was in this movie, but still, this film definitely was a good sequel. And would I be up for them doing another? I don't know. Maybe they should just do one more film after this if they want to do it. And please don't wait too long because, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are definitely getting older. So maybe they could do one more film. And I'm calling it right now. They're going to call the fifth film Bad Boys, What You Gonna Do. Quote me on that. Like, mark my words. If we're not calling the fifth film What You Gonna Do, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? But I'm definitely up for seeing one more film. I'm hopefully they don't drag this out for too long. I don't want this to turn to another Fast and Furious franchise, but we'll see what happens. This movie's doing really well at the box office so far, so it's a possibility we'll get more from this. But yeah, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence I thought was really good. I thought the other supporting cast were very good. I thought the whole conflict with Captain Howard was done a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I like that they're making Mike and Marcus more human, addressing the fact that they're older and they're dealing with more issues as they're getting older. So I'm glad that they're doing that. Reggie, really, really good in this film. The direction, the action, the cinematography, the editing, all was really, really good. The villain was really solid. But yeah, definitely a lot of fun. But yeah, as I said, if you enjoyed Bad Boys for Life, I definitely think you'll enjoy this. But overall, if you're a Bad Boys fan, definitely go see this. Like, definitely think it's worth a watch and definitely a good time at the movies, especially if you're in a theater with a big crowd. I think this type of movie would be good for that as well. So I will give Bad Boys Ride or Die. I'll give it a similar grade as the third film. I'll give it a B plus. Yeah, really, really, really good. But those are my thoughts on Bad Boys Ride or Die. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? How does it compare to the previous three films? Comment your thoughts down below and let me know. So, I have finished covering the Bad Boys movies. If you guys enjoyed them, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified on future videos I'll be doing. But that's all I have for you Bad Boys fans, and I will catch you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys.